Hello, my friends. We are live once again. I'm here with my much beloved family from 10 Demands. This has been a long time coming. We have a friend of the show. You guys know her. You've seen her quite a few times. Zoya is back. How you doing, Zoya?
Awesome. Happy to be here.
Then I have my good friend Awkward. It's been a while since we had a conversation. We always have a blast whenever we do hook up. There's always so much to talk about. How you doing, brother?
Good. Yeah, I've been hiding, but I'm glad to be here. I love you, man.
Yeah, man. It's always good to talk. I was super hyped. Cause we still got to finish all of the demands we have, and the people who've been watching my channel, I talk about the 10 demands group that I founded with Awkward and Zoya, and you guys taught me a lot, especially when I remember we used to have intense conversations about like what would the demand would be, and I had some ideas, and you guys taught me a lot during that process. I will never forget it. So I'm still very proud of that. I talk about it all the time. I try to educate people because now we're seeing more people are interested in these ideas. So now our goal is to like steer the movement in the right path, right? So that's why I love our 10 demands. So the first thing I want to do before we get into demands, and I know we probably we probably can edit like the demand in a shorter video if you want for the website. But I want to start off for the audience. I just want to ask you guys like I can start with awkward, and then we go to Zoya. Like, what your mindset behind 10 demands was, what you see for the future, and what your overall goals. And I'm pretty much just a broad overall introductory question, and then we can start with the fourth demand, just so people who not familiar with you guys. So I want to pass it to you, awkward. What's
Great.
your what was your mindset behind 10 demands?
Well, first, I want to say that I look whiter than I've ever looked in my life. Right? Like you've seen me before. I think I'm even whiter than usual. Anyway, um, I feel now that my goal has shifted a little bit. What I'm doing right now with not just promoting the 10 demands as like building a brand or as our goals or our demands are the only way of going about abolition, but also about why we developed these in the first place. To answer your question, people need to understand not only how violent the system is at every single touch point, but also how insidious it is and how intentional it is. And right along with that, how all of these police reforms that everyone keeps saying we need are exactly what we've been doing for generations. And that's why critical resistance was founded, because a lot of lifelong Black radical feminist activists realized that all of their work had led to things that actually didn't chip away at the system or reduce the harm of the system, but strengthened it by essentially confirming its, kind of like necessity, or like it's a given that this exists. We're just going to try to make it, a little less horrifying, a gentler form of genocide, as I like to say. And so what I've been doing when we started this, my intention was to set a clear path to abolition. And everything in the 10 demands, including the reforms, represent steps toward abolition. There's not a single reform, so to speak, that falls under the concept of reformism, because their intention is not to to slightly alter something without improving it even. It's, again, a step toward getting rid of it completely. What I'm doing now is, now that these exist, we've been written about, we've done a bunch of interviews like across, whatever, social media, online media. I think now is the time to start converting some of these people that we've, and when I say we've, I mean the collective we, the
Yeah,
so-called
absolutely.
leftists, the people that we have demonized as liberals, neoliberals. In many ways, their well-intentioned actions have had incredibly detrimental effects. But as an abolitionist, I know that these people are ripe for transformation. They don't have to be this way. They're uninformed. So I'm spending a ton of time sharing radical ideas, radical solutions, and really, really clearly explained in layman terms how bad the system is and all of its facets.
Yes.
And every single day, to your point about more people being interested, I am seeing more people call themselves abolitionists, make demands for defunding the police.
And that was heresy like 3-4 years ago. I remember.
Yep.
Like,
I am seeing fewer and fewer people tell me you're wrong. We need to reform it. Fewer and fewer people saying the language is the problem. The slogan is the problem. It's still out there. Democrats, you know, the leadership, believe me, is still our enemy.
Oh,
but
yeah, I want to get your thoughts later, maybe later in the stream. I want to get your thoughts on this because it actually shows the success of our movement. I don't know how much of you guys pay attention to this, but they write an anti-defund police hit article every day. I'm gonna show you guys some examples later in the stream. Every day, I check almost every day because they are terrified. They would not do this if this wasn't a threat. I'm telling you, but I want you to finish with the awkward. I just want to add that.
No, boom, that's 100% true, and that kind of concludes my thought. I mean, I've been doing so-called justice work for a couple decades plus, and it was the natural progression given being in the midst of the longest and largest sustained period of, you know, social justice protest in our nation's history to create an organization leveraging, you know, decades of knowledge from Black, Brown, Indigenous, queer, you know, and disabled people.
Now I want to get Zoya in here as well. I'm gonna ask you that broad question as well because I always like to. So people who watch this for the first time again know us, have a good idea of our background and why we formed 10 Demands because no one on the left have covered awkward. Awkward is probably the only other guy on the left. I say this all the time, but always gotta get awkward props. Awkward is probably the only other person. We don't have giant channels, right? But who else have been more critical of the police state than us? Like almost every stream, I do at least one story highlighting the violence of the police state, how they extract wealth from our communities. In one form or another, I am covering this. This is something that has been a giant weakness on the progressive left for the most part. They get distracted with a lot of issues, and this is one of the issues they run away from. I seen them even repeat like ridiculous dogma stuff like, well, I see what you guys are saying, but I don't like the slogan. Now we see countless people say stuff like this, and they pretend to be our friends for the most part. A lot of them, like you say, had good intentions, but that's what we're here to do, educate. But I don't want to get too long of a spiel. I want to get Zoya in here. We always good to have Zoya join the show, friend the show. I just want to ask you, like, what was your mindset behind 10 Demands? Anything you want to add that awkward from awkward what he said?
Yeah, so I've been an activist and organizer since I was a kid. So when this idea popped up, it was during the George Floyd protests, and I was out protesting. But a bunch of us, a very large group of people, realized that we needed demands to utilize this energy, that we need to have a strategy while people are in the streets. So then we came together and started really debating and researching for a long time what are these realistic paths to abolition. And a lot of great minds came together. Patrona, Cheyenne, yeah, there was a lot of people who did the research, and we had indigenous voices, we had a lot of survivors, a lot of female survivors, and we all talked about like what is the best path going forward. And I really loved everybody in the group, even though we had very passionate debate, trying to understand, you know, how do we demand justice from the system. At the same time, by demanding justice from the system, we're empowering the system. And now we have the tragedy of Mir Log, and I was literally like almost crying a few minutes ago because it just seems like every time we're doing this, you know, there's new deaths, And this has to stop. Our government is supposed to serve us, not kill us. And these thugs in uniform terrorize us while siphoning funds from education and healthcare. And it's a broken system. And I got friends behind bars, and they're gonna grow old there or die. So for me, it's very personal for us to end the police state and the carceral state in general.
Yeah, I have
Yeah.
friends that are victim of the police state. Now, I'll get you right in here, awkward. And this is when it get real, and when you start asking questions about what the system really designed to do. I'm not gonna share anyone information, but I had a friend who, and I didn't know the details of his legal problems, but I just remember he was going through legal problems his entire adult life that would cost him jobs. I mean, he was constantly in and out. And then one day I finally talked to him, like, "Yo, what's going on? What happened to you?" Like, "Yeah, man, they bust me with a bag of weed." I'm like,
Yeah.
"Yo, this whole thing that been going on for years of your life that destroyed your life is over weed. Like, over weed. That's it." I got a guy I got another friend. Once again, I'm not trying to like get information out, but he going through some same shit over that has nothing to do with public safety. Nothing to do. And we live this shit. We all know the people that have been in out of jail. And you know these people, they're not bad people. They just didn't follow these capitalist laws. They didn't hurt or harm anyone. But what was you about to say, awkward? Then I got a few more things I want to chime in. I want to get you in here.
Yeah. The first thing I wanted to say was just to thank Zoya for mentioning not like going beyond what I said as it related to the protests at the time. That the fact that we actually put a lot of thought into how to arm those on the streets with materials and ideas that they could bring to city councils. In my years of direct action and things like that, we sometimes had those things and sometimes didn't, and they can really make a difference in how successful you are. And we saw in some of the cities that made more progress than others toward defunding, those were the cities where they weren't just protesting, but they had real organizers and organizing efforts underway where they took demands to the city councils. And, you know, to that end, we distributed, I think, over 1,000 to protesters in a few different cities. And, you know, so that's what I was going to say. But also, you know, you mentioned you have friends who've been affected. I don't mean this to say like no shit to you two. What I mean is like, so do I, and all of us do. And I just want to be clear for people that don't know, this is another way of looking at the statistics. We talk about how 1 in 3 Black boys is going to end up in prison. And that Black boys are 600% more likely to be killed by police. Forward just did this, like, I think that's how you say it. It's FWD, just did this really interesting thing that looked at it from the families of those who are incarcerated. These numbers are just looking at it from their perspective. It's interesting because it's people don't often think about when they're like, yeah, disappear him, cage him, send him away. He's an animal, about the effect that has on families and communities and generations beyond. So it's really interesting. And here's the numbers. 1 in 4 people has not only known someone like us to be incarcerated, 1 in 4 people has had a sibling incarcerated. 1 in 5 people has had a parent incarcerated. 1 in 8 has had a child incarcerated.
I'm not gonna say who, but I definitely fall in that statistic. I'm not gonna say which one, but I definitely fall in that. But go ahead,
no, I mean,
I want to add to that. 1 in 2 adults in America has had a family member in jail or prison. 1 in 2. That's half.
Yeah. So there you go. I mean, if you haven't had a family member, you're part of the lucky 50%. If you look like me, you can get arrested like me and not end up in a situation like the people you guys were talking about. Sometimes, even if you do look like me, because you don't have the money to pay for a proper lawyer or whatever it might be, or you don't have enough money to even continue like covering expenses when you're locked up in jail for whatever time period that is, you can also end up in that place. And really, like you said, it's, that particular friend got caught with weed. It doesn't matter what it is. It can be jaywalking. Once you're in the system, it is incredibly difficult to get out. And it's very similar in that way to houselessness, in the way like we other people in prison, they're not like us. They're bad, we're good. Same with houselessness. You can have a job. If you don't have the family support network to protect you when you lose your job, you're houseless also. And we know what cops do to houseless people. So it's all connected.
Yeah, so this is why we gotta speak out against the system of imperialism. People cannot be complicit with doing this whitewashing of our system, and that's kind of what neoliberalism and imperialism is designed to do by saying, "Oh, we're gonna get into this country, we're gonna invade this country over here because look at this violent authoritarian state. That if we get involved, we can make a better government, we can install a better culture." By doing that, you guys are, and by repeating the idea that that's even possible, you guys are whitewashing the United States as if we are not the largest penal colony, as if we do not imprison 1/4 of the prison population. China got way more people than us, right? And I'm not a China apologist, but how can anyone in our state deem China authoritarian hellhole when we jail way more people than them when they got way more people than us? How does that make sense? There's so many Western countries. I need to pull up the list that have banned the death penalty. We still execute innocent people to this day.
I want to get you in here too. But go ahead. I just want to say quickly, I don't like this terminology, but we are the only developed nation who still has the death penalty.
Wow. See, I didn't know it was that bad. I don't know the full list, but I just know broadly that a ton of countries banned it. Maybe I should Google it here soon. But I just want you guys to know, we don't ever follow for the idea of pushing Western chauvinism. Like, we got to continue to debunk this. And then this is why, especially on the International Leftist Coalition, we purposely connect these two struggles. Because especially as a Black man, I believe these struggles are connected. Like when I see what's going on in Palestine and when I see what's going on in my neighborhood. Mm-hmm. It's the same forces of oppression. We don't have to play a like oppression Olympics that a lot of people get tricked into doing. Oh, I'm more oppressed than you. I'm more oppressed than you. No, we are oppressed under the same system, the system of imperialism, the system of the military and prison industrial complex, which is why this should be one of our leading fights. Which is why I give much love and admiration to Zoya and AWKWORD, because this is what we ask for our white allies. What else can we ask for that you've been on the front lines? Like, I'm not even saying that just to prop you. That's real talk. That's what we've been asking. Yeah, I'm saying that's what we've been asking people to do. I criticize the progressives because I say you guys talk a big game, but you guys fund and prop up the police state more with your politics and your rhetoric. I don't care what you say. I don't care if you say you're anti-racist. I want to see what you do. Like, these are the people we ally with at Revolutionary Blackout. So I'm not saying that this is probably, but that's legitimately how we feel here. But anyway, I'm gonna give you a word, and we're gonna get into the topic.
Who, me or Zoya?
I just want to get one of you guys in because I talk too damn much.
No, you don't. I also talk too damn much. I just laughed when you said that, not because I was embarrassed, although, it is weird to get props, but I appreciate them always, because it does mean something for me to hear from a Black man that I am doing it the right way. That is my goal, to do it the right way. And
any mistake you make, I can see you like you try and learn and get better. That's all we can ask. No one's gonna be perfect, right?
No, of course.
I made a lot of mistakes too, right? Yeah. Go ahead.
We all do. And so for another day, another conversation, I got a lot of issues with cancel culture on the left. But that's a whole separate thing. The reason I laughed though is because I was just about to say, like, yes, Nick, you're right. And I like to hear the way you talk about it. It does affect all of us, but it affects you more than it affects me. I was about to say that. And then you talked about how, like, in my position, that's what I'm doing, is knowing that and trying to end that.
Yeah, and I don't do oppression Olympics. I don't believe in that. And I tell people all the time, reject the culture war and a lot of people on the left do it, where they bash identity politics. And the reason why you guys want to do that is because the neoliberal and Democratic establishment bastardize what that term is supposed to mean. Identity politics is supposed to be a system of solidarity. Like, I'm a Black man, and civil asset forfeiture steals our wealth, but it steals your wealth too as a poor working class white man. So this is what identity politics is supposed to be about. This is how our revolutionary leaders wrote about it. But it actually served the establishment great to hijack it. Right now, it's almost a laughable term. And instead of falling for that, I implore people, please educate people like what identity politics is really about. Because I see people always fall in that trap. Oh, identity politics. Instead of doing that, explain that the liberals, their version of that sucks. But anyway, that's my point. Like, that's the importance. Like, yeah, you go through this state, you go through this problem in the state, the white community go through this problem in the state. And then I bring up the fact that the black community is impacted the most, because that's also a way I can connect this issue to my brothers and sisters. Like, and that's just the reality of the situation. If you explain, yo, this shit affects you, like that actually helps people, bring people aboard. So we got it. This is the strategy that people have to learn, and that's why I want. But I won't get you in. But I want people to like really think about strategy. That's why I do want to talk to people. When I talk to conservatives, my strategy is different. Yeah. When I talk to black people, my strategy. When I talk to a poor working white dude, I'm like, yo, why use identity politics? I'm connecting our issues together. How is that divisive? Yeah, how is that divisive? But anyway, Awkward, go ahead.
It's not at all. And I just wanted to add that it was really important to us to have the amazing Cheyenne as part of our group. And I also reached out to Chase Iron Eyes and a couple other people from the indigenous communities to make sure that we were inclusive. I totally agree. That we were inclusive of indigenous people too, because I just wanted to add to what you were saying. Yes, Black people are absolutely most affected. The group that is closest, if not nearly right on par, is the indigenous community. They are talked about virtually not at all.
Yeah, that's why when I wrote my op-ed when I talk about defund the police, and I like the thesis of it was how you gotta be pro-black if you want to support. Like, you can't be pro-black if you support a police state. But I made sure I included a portion, and I said, yo, indigenous people are right there up there with us. Like, when it comes to civil asset forfeiture and police deaths, like, our numbers is literally identical.
And incarceration rates.
Yeah, like I don't remember on top of my head who's got an edge on each individual one, but it's almost insignificant to talk about because it's like the same number. So I always want to make sure it's important to include that as well, because they don't have their issues to talk about, especially on this a lot. And I think it's important, especially if I demand solidarity, I want to make sure I get solidarity to everyone else. But I want to get Zoya in here, and then we're gonna get to the actual demand.
Yeah,
we can riff on this all day. So go ahead,
Zoya. Should we get into the demand? I dropped the graphic into our Twitter chat.
Okay. Do you want me to pull up the demand on the website, or I can pull up the image? Either way, let's see what we send. Okay, yeah, I'll just pull up the website because I can pull it here. I'll have this in the background. So, Zoya, do you want to introduce it? So let me say this before we start. So we're starting on 4. We haven't done one of these in quite a while. I have the link to our website in the description. So if you see here, we have our first demand: defund the police and reallocate resources to impacted communities. And you can click here, and you see we actually have our first episode we did. What's the date on this? This is last April. Yeah. When we so if you want to see the first demand in detail, this is our first conversation on that. And then you can see let's close that. And then we have a second demand. I'm not gonna click that. We have a video for our first 3 demands. The second demand is demilitarize the police, eliminate discriminatory policing, prosecution, and sentencing is number 3.
Just click on that real quick.
Go ahead.
Not on the video, but click that. And just so people see each one.
Yeah, you can read. We have a lot of detailed information here.
Yeah.
Where you got that's why, sincerely, if you want to learn more about our plan for abolition and educate you more. Once again, I learned a lot from these resources as well. Right.
Oh man, our resources page is crazy. Yeah. People who know a lot more than us. There's a lot of stuff there.
Yes, I still need to reload this. To be honest.
Yeah, I haven't read it all. On the books, I haven't read it all. Everything else I've
done. So this is what we're doing today. This is number 4. Because we already did the other 3, and we're gonna be more consistent. Like, I really want to get these done here pretty soon. So I think this is a good time slot, right?
I'm telling you guys, I keep saying, get the demands done challenge.
So I think this is a good time, right?
It is the get them done challenge, though. Zoya's the best in so many ways, but one of them is like holding us accountable.
Yeah. Yeah, so if this is a good time slot, we can kind of aim for. We can try to aim for that at least bi-weekly or something. So this is the main demand we were talking about, and I want to get Zoya to introduce it. I'll just read the headline, the first header here. The Institute complete law enforcement transparency and accountability. So I want to pass it to you, Zoya.
So it's to create an independent national database of police crimes, brutality, and misconduct, implement independent, community-led police department reviews and data audits, require public reporting of all police records and schedules, immediately terminate and eliminate pensions of any officer found guilty of manipulating data, covering their badge, turning off their body or dash cam, or illegally stopping a citizen from filming. So this demand, it is an important one because this is a road to abolition. Obviously, we want to defund police to zero, and our ultimate goal is to have a society without police. But on the way to that, we have to take steps to deal with the reality of the system we're currently living in. And we see these cops eluding responsibility all the time and shutting off their cameras. And meanwhile, you guys saw the CIA declassified info that came out. We're being
I wanted to ask you guys about that later, for sure.
But the police state is not being held accountable in any way. So, Awkward, do you have anything to add to this one particularly?
Well, I happened to, for the first time, and I'm very proud of myself, take a look at the comments while we were doing this, and someone's saying, if we defund the police, number 4 won't be needed. Incrementalism does not work. I'm not certain if he's suggesting, or I shouldn't say he. I'm not certain if they are suggesting that the 10 demands are incrementalism. But they are certainly right that not if we defund the police, but if we abolish the police, number 4 won't be needed. That is actually very obvious. The point, as Zoya suggested or said outright, was that this is the road to abolition. And as long as there are police, as we are, if we follow our framework, we've already ended all new budget increases to police departments. We've already killed all the PR departments. We've already stripped unions and foundations, or stripped unions of their power and ended police foundations. There's a lot that went under defund the police in just part 1. And while this isn't a chronological, 1 through 10 process, we would be implementing number 4 alongside this.
Exactly.
So while police still exist, we would be making sure that they are no longer able to rape people in their custody, murder people, beat people, plant evidence on people, steal from people, et cetera, with impunity. These types of measures that we're including in number 4 are the ways that would enable us as humans and victims of police violence and state violence to be the ones monitoring them. Like, instead of the George Floyd Act, which gave more money to cops to monitor themselves, which clearly isn't going to work.
And they still do it now.
Right. And to be honest, and like, just as a side note, police unions were in favor in many cases of body cams. It just added to the surveillance state. It improved their visuals. So no, monitoring themselves is not it. We're monitoring them now. We're holding them accountable. If you do any of these things, you don't exist anymore. And if your police department has a record of this, you're one of the first to disappear too. That's what this demand is about.
Yeah, there's so much to say there, and we appreciate the good dialogue, Alex. So I explained this on the other stream, and that's always been my vision, all these 10 demands, working them in tandem, because when I seen people criticize abolitionists and people who advocate for defunded police, I can tell they never talk to any of us. Because I hear people. I debated Garland Nixon on this issue. He was someone who said this as well. He said, yeah, I agree with you on the issue, but I don't see a plan. They say this while they lock us out of dialogue, which why I give a lot of props to Garland Nixon, because he was one of the only people who had the balls to debate me on this. Meanwhile, You have people on giant platforms. You have people on Fox News, MSNBC, CNN, and they'll say, "Yeah, these people are just shouting. These people don't have no plan." Yes, we do. Like this, we literally give you a realistic plan to action that you can do right now as we have police, right?
We really actually do.
So when I hear people say stuff like that, and it goes unchallenged, it's still the main narrative that you hear. Like we're still pretty relatively small, right? Like it's still the main narrative of abolitionists don't got plans. They're just unrealistic.
Yep.
No, when I became enthusiastic about this, when I learned there was a plan, I was like, oh, I didn't know there was a plan. I was like, oh, let's go. I didn't know there was a way we can do this. It was something I always wanted, but I didn't know there was a plan until I learned. And I explained it before, but I want to get awkward and Zoya in here before I go into it.
Zoya, go ahead. You got anything?
Yeah. This is about transparency and accountability at the front lines of where these cops are murdering our people, because Amir Locke was killed right now, and we're not going to have abolition by tomorrow. So a lack of transparent or comparable police data inhibits the public and policymakers' ability to fully understand and address police practices and their consequences. Our aim is evidence-based accountability to justify defunding the police state.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't remember the exact number. I think it was 17,000. The reporting that does exist, even by the independent trackers that we know of, like Sam Sway and Mapping Police Violence, for instance, has been incredibly resourceful for us and many other organizations and leaders, or I shouldn't say leaders, but like office holders or those running for office. If, for instance, someone, I mean, listen, I think 17,000 in the last like couple decades of police murders did not go reported. Then there's all the people who almost die and don't count. And so, you know, the magnitude is so great and so much greater than people understand, that it absolutely would impact the amount of people who are willing to consider what we're saying if they knew the data better. But on the other hand, this is still, language is important, and it's a delicate balance, because abolition, while our framework is clearly actionable, and all of these steps could be taken and would drastically improve public safety.
Like, you guys actually name legislation. I want you guys to know that's how specific. I'm gonna share my screen just to give you guys an example. So let's go to the I'm just going to just give you guys an example, because we just went over this. You see how we actually literally got like this. Correct me if I'm wrong here, but the 1033 program, isn't this the program that Biden used to give more weapons to the police?
Military grade weaponry, yeah.
So like these are real, like
tanks,
we talk about these programs,
tanks, rocket launchers, helicopters, things that like your local police department clearly don't need.
So I'm telling, like, we have real legislation here. We have real paths to what you do right now. But go ahead.
So that is true. But I also just want to acknowledge the fact that all of us have been born, from the moment we're born, learning about what we as the collective, we in this country, what we've been taught about crime and punishment, and victims and perpetrators, and police and prisons and public safety. All of these things we have been lied to for generations. So it is brave to be an abolitionist, because it is brave to endeavor in that direction, because you literally have to unlearn a lifetime's worth of misinformation and disinformation. It takes a lot of work, but when you do the research, and you're a humanist, it's almost impossible not to get to that point.
And a lot of people getting there too.
Yeah, absolutely. And but a huge part of it is changing how you live. That's a thing that Dylan Rodriguez, one of the founding members of Critical Resistance and a friend of mine, I love this guy, talks about a lot, is like, it's not a tagline. It's not a solution. It's not a trademark. It's not an end goal. It's a way of life. It is being someone who is about mutual aid and dual power and community ownership and love and healing and transformative justice. You know, and we protect us. It's living that. That's being an abolitionist. And the more people who do that and build small little alternatives to police, you know, social workers, for instance, dealing with mental health crises, it's happening all over the country, and we just need to keep doing it. We are part of a long line of abolitionist struggle that will continue well beyond our lifetimes.
Yeah, that's why I took the challenge on. People like, oh, you guys advocating for defund the police. You guys not gonna do that. I'm like, all right, challenge accepted. I don't care how long the shit takes. You think Malcolm X like, yeah, I'm gonna get in this fight done in a few years, right? Like when I look at the people who inspired me, like they didn't have a short-term plan. They was like, I'm here for life. I don't know how long this is gonna take.
Right.
And then once we implement our plans, we just see what goes wrong. Then I'm gonna fight wherever goes wrong. Then, like
it's an iterative process.
Yeah.
And the only way to know is to try it. And the dumbest thing we can do is do the same thing over and over and think we're going to get a different result. So giving more money to something that doesn't work is foolish. Not just like in this literal element, like way, but like, isn't there like a cliche about that? Like, right? Like, you're crazy if you repeat the same thing. An idiom. Come on, someone knows it. I mean, it's just absurd to do this.
I want to say this because I've seen a few chats and comments. I do think they're legit, but let's connect the entire picture here, because I actually don't even like the concept. I guess it is a reform because I always explain that like the liberals reforms they don't even actually go for real reforms. Like
there's a difference. Dylan taught me this. There's a difference between reforms and reformism.
Yeah, that's a good. I would love to learn more about that. But the point I was gonna make is once you put our politics together, you see what I'm trying to get at. Because I advocate for a general strike, right? I advocate for divorcing ourselves from the two-party electoral system. I don't say this stuff just to be edgy. And when I ask people who advocate for electoral politics, and I ask them like, if you're passionate about the issues of the police state, are you going to get that done through electoralism? The answer is no. I don't think. Well, there's local things you can do, but in order to get a lot of these demands, I really do think you need a general strike. I really think you really had to get a point to where you can put a lot of pressure on people.
That's a whole other conversation.
To build on that, though, first of all, you definitely have to read all of the demands in context and understand that they're working together, because this is the road to abolition. Abolition is our goal 100%. But, even you look at this demand and it says community-led police department reviews and data audits. And that might seem like such, just a few words. But really what we're laying out there is involving citizens early so that we can convene law enforcement, public officials, civil society organizations, and members of community to identify priority information for collection, disclosure, privacy protection, and then start holding them accountable right now, today. And by building on this is how we start building the infrastructure of community, replacing policing, because we have to get community involved in policing the police in order to replace them.
Beautifully said.
That's why what you said is on the money. That's why it's a shame that it's impossible to do a stream where we explain all the demands and you see how it all works. That's why we have these streams where we got to talk about one demand as just one episode, just to dive in why it's so important. And I actually want to share this, and then I want to get you guys' reaction to this, because the way you explain holding the police accountable, awkward, like the people power, it's so important. Like the point you made earlier. Because I covered this on our show a while ago. You have the liberals that put shit-lib reforms that do nothing. So when we talk about police accountability reforms and boards, that's a completely different thing than what liberals do and what they implement. So I'm going to share you guys. I reported on this quite a few months ago. I actually want to get your guys' reaction on this. So what liberals always say, oh, let's have police accountability. This is what Biden and the Democrats say. So what do? We have a real example of this here, right? Let me find this. I gotta read it. I gotta read it in the right order. Here it is. Damn. Sorry, I gotta read it right. I spoiled the last part of it. But I gotta find a story. But there's a story where New Jersey, where they put police oversight committees in. So and they celebrate it as a big victory. And I'm gonna find the source. I got it in the wrong order. I found the source. So in New Jersey, they had this police oversight reform, right? And it was held as a giant victory for police abolitionists and the activists in the area, which I'm all for celebrating victories as you get them, right? But you have this committee, they will look into the police and they were like, yo, this police officer should be fired. He should be recommended over an action, right? But this committee had no power.
Exactly.
And then so they would have these recommendations and they were like, yo, we recommend the police unions investigate, look into the situation. And then the police is like, nah, we're good. That essentially was the response. I fucked up. I gotta find the story, but do you guys have any thoughts?
God, I'm also looking for something like,
yeah, I gotta find it.
I have crazy stats on like the NYPD's version of this. I'm trying to find it also.
Well, the United States government undertook the Open Police Data Initiative as part of its 2015 National Action Plan to address high levels of distrust and tension between police and the public. And that initiative encourages local police jurisdictions to proactively publish policing data. The project is managed collaboratively by the Justice Department's Office of Community-Oriented Policing Services and a nonprofit organization, the National Police Foundation. So this initiative increased access to information by creating a centralized database that comprises over 130 jurisdictions and 405 data sets as of June 2020, including cities such as New York, Los Angeles, and Detroit. But the problem is that this is voluntary.
Yes.
So,
and the vast majority of police departments do not contribute. So it is completely ineffective. And just for whatever, there's a way to make a complaint or search complaints about the NYPD officers. The website is 50-a.org. As of July 2021, the database contained more than 280,000 allegations from 100,000 complaints.
Wow.
Just that tells you, one, how unbelievably problematic the NYPD is, but it also tells you how difficult it is to monitor what they're doing.
I'll tell you guys, we don't have no idea the crazy shit they get away with every day.
Right.
Whenever I read a story about, and I know you see them, you read a story about, oh, this police officer called after years of planting drugs on someone, right. And like they finally got him. How many times did that happen before it was reported? So I would love to know the number. Like how many times it actually happened for when they catch one person? It happens all the time. But go ahead, finish with the awkward.
No, I think that's it. But I do want to just quickly say
I want to share this. I found the story that I was talking about.
Okay,
earlier.
Yeah, do it.
I posted the wrong damn link for some reason. But anyway, this is the story I meant to share earlier. I reported on this last summer. You see, the Rochester, they put this police board in here. And I don't want to read the full article. I'll be quick on it. So they pretty much instituted this board. And one of the reasons why they did this was in response to escalated police violence and protests. And it was held as a liberal reform victory for activists. But just like body cam reforms, like a lot of the other reforms they be allowing in, you can't have the police themselves. You can't have these boards that have no power. That's why what Awkward said was extremely important, where you had people actually investigate the police, and we have the power to pull all the resources. Like if you're 3 strikes, you're out, you're done. But now in this board, Rochester Police Board, to remain powerless to discipline cops. So they will write these really well researched and well done critiques on the police, and then police pretty much like, yeah, cool story, bro. Nicely well written. Thank you for giving us the PR. Yeah, you see, we hold ourselves accountable. We're gonna read this report, but we're not gonna do anything about it.
All right. So this is a perfect segue. First, I just want to say, for anyone who doesn't know, this city of Rochester is not a place where we should be letting the cops make choices. In March 2021, I said that this same city that had murdered Daniel Prude the year before had just assaulted a 9-year-old black girl and her mom, then had killed again within 7 minutes amid a mental health crisis. This is a particularly violent police department. But the segue is into electoralism. While I certainly support a general strike that has the support and the infrastructure it would need to succeed, I think that there is a value to elections on the local level. And you did say, Nick, that on the local level.
Yeah, I actually agree with that. That's why you saw I had to catch myself like, on the local level. But
yeah.
If you see it in Congress, it's not gonna happen. And Senate, it's not gonna happen. Hell no. But I actually do, because Zoya actually explained it to me before. Like, if you actually do get good local like abolitionist council members, they can help work with you to help accomplish your goals on the local levels. So I actually do agree with that. So, but
and we just banned the use of rubber bullets and tear gas on protesters in California. So we do.
So the only question I have, obviously, as a radical, is once we get the city council members who are abolitionists, what do we do in response to the establishment shadiness? Because I don't think they will just let that fly. You know what I mean? So that's what. Then I'm like, all right. Then we got to escalate the strikes and then locking stuff down. So like So that's the only thing I would add. Like we get an abolitionist council member. There's no way the establishment will let them rest in peace. You see what they try to do with Kashawn Sawan. Then we would need a strike and like retaliation.
So
that's the only thing I would add.
Clear,
right? Go ahead, Zoya.
Electoralism is good for incrementalism. People just have a hard time being honest about that. It's not that it doesn't work. It does yield results if you apply a lot of pressure and do direct action and go to these city council meetings. There's a lot of way to push policy, but the game is rigged. We're living in a place where Michael Bloomberg has just been named the new chairman of the Pentagon's Defense Innovation Board. The author of the Patriot Act and the crime bill is the president. So the game is rigged. The system's stacked against us. And electoralism is good for incremental change only. Absolutely. We cannot just stop there. We have to get in the streets. We need direct action. We need to organize, and we need to move beyond electoralism. But I just don't want to invalidate it as yielding nothing, because of course we're all sick of incrementalism. None of us want it. None of us. I don't want it. But
I think the problem is that we're not getting incrementalism now, and that's my criticism of progressives in Congress. Like, we're not even getting incrementalism. Like, things are getting worse.
That's on the national level. So on a local level, we do get wins in different municipalities. You can achieve a lot more on a local level. But again, these are small things. And I've mentioned the example before because I was in marijuana advocacy, and part of legalizing marijuana in California meant that several people in jail were eligible for release and expungement of their records. And while that isn't good enough, it's not nationwide legalization. It stops any further people from being arrested for weed. And I had a lot of people going to jail growing up for weed. And it got people that I know, fathers, daughters, real people, home. So it is an incremental policy, and it is not good enough. And we should fight for the whole thing. Yeah. But these things they hold over us through electoral, they do have consequences, very real consequences. And you could say, like, getting 10,000 people out of jail is not good enough. They should all be free. And I support you. But those 10,000 people, yeah, they matter. And getting that, I mean, we fought 20 years to make that happen. So the system's corrupt, the politicians are corrupt, and I don't want to ever push any illusions otherwise. And if electoral is your only path, I wish you luck, I wish you success, but I've hit nothing but dead ends through that. But we can get certain policy concessions.
I'm not like, wasn't the whole idea behind a lot of Marxist theory with Marx and Lenin? They said like it's our job, especially as working class advocates, for all to always pursue better conditions for the workers. Like you can't stop the pursuit for better conditions of the work. Once again, I'm not like a perfect theory nerd, so I like can't quote the exact scripture, but I know the concept. Like as Marxists, like we're supposed to constantly be striving for the betterment of workers. So even if the solution doesn't lead to a revolution, it'll be foolish to ignore something that can improve the workers. Because I think it's still important, and it's still valid to say that electoralism won't lead to a revolution. Correct. But incrementalism that can improve the workers and the status of our communities is worth pursuing. And I think a lot of people actually have it flipped because I explained this on the show before. I advocate for mutual aid, direct action, and then fill in the gaps with electoral politics, everything you can't get with that. And there are a lot of people who have it twisted, where they rely so much on electoral politics that I'm gonna put all my energy in electoral politics, and then I'm gonna do mutual aid on stuff on whatever I don't. It should be the exact opposite. Like organize mutual aid, do everything you can, then wherever you hit a wall, then use electoralism only when you have to. That's where I stand. But any last thoughts you guys have on this topic?
I totally agree with you. You build toward an abolitionist humanist society by focusing on community building and mutual aid and things of that nature. So I totally agree with you. That should be your priority. But it's all, I really just want to harp on the fact that like on the local level, there are literal Nazis who are running for the same positions as the abolitionists. So if we're not also focused,
that's a good point,
on putting these abolitionists in office so we can maybe make a few minor chips at the local system toward abolition from the inside, we're electing someone who's going to do the exact opposite, who's going to make sure that who the hell knows? I mean, they're going to make sure that all the books you want to read are banned. They're going to make sure there are violent cops targeting Black and brown people in your classrooms. You don't want a Nazi in power, so why ignore local elections?
Can I add to that? I slightly diverge from that. I mean, my point of view on it kind of is, when you get the mail-in ballot and now mail-in is popularized everywhere, just check the box. Just take your shot and check the box. But I think, even saying that we're going to get them in power, ultimately we're getting them in power in a system that's completely corrupt. And I know because I worked with officials. I've had city council members getting high with me and telling me like, look, I support you. Like, obviously I'm pro weed, but if I go against the party line in this office, they will destroy my life and they will replace me with somebody that will do what the party says. So,
right. But in the meantime, we have to support like people like Kristen Richardson Jordan, who endorsed the 10 demands and who we endorse.
I had her on the show and she won. Did she win? Or did I get that right?
She did win.
I was like, what?
You had her on. I'm going to have her on my show in like a month or something. She's not bowing down at all. So while she may not get reelected, in the time that she's here, she is at least changing the narrative. She is at least
I do agree with that.
Educating the people sitting around her.
To add a real world example, Lee Carter was in office in Virginia, and he did push a lot of good laws through for policing, for marijuana. So we do sometimes get these wins. They're rare, and we get these radicals in there that are able to move things forward. And as far as on the Marxist-Leninist perspective, I'm from the USSR. I grew up in a communist society. Lenin was not against participating in electoralism. He said to participate in it while that's what's available, but to pursue revolution, because revolution is the way to liberation and electoralism is not going to lead there. But he never said just, to surrender your power, because people have died and bled in the streets to secure the power to vote. And I'm not here to sell anybody that voting is going to deliver the systemic change that we need. It's not. It's not. But and I'm not telling you to give your money. If it's your grocery money or your last money, do not give your money to politicians. Give it to mutual aid. Support people in your community. But I'm saying,
or feed yourself. Yeah.
I'm saying take your shot. Take your shot. It's not gonna harm you to check the box and vote for the policies that we want, ballot initiatives, people who support these policies. Just check that box, but check that box with no illusions of how corrupt the system is.
Yeah,
Fair
Zoya's on point here, and this is what I always want to tell people, because I'm not. People ask me like, will you talk to candidates? Because I'm like, I'm looking for other strategies. I want to talk to Shahid. I want to talk to Shahid about the CIA. I had him on, and I have Kristen. That's why it's funny. Once I saw her one, I was like, oh, cause the reason why I had her on, because I'm like, I'm not interested in being your PR agent. Like I have a few people ask me, come on, like, bro, you gotta understand. I'm gonna ask you tough questions. I'm gonna ask people why you should vote for her. And that's why I did with Kristen. She was like, I'm down. So I was like, bet. And then and the main reason I talked to her because she was supporting defund police. No one would have the balls to do that. And then she endorsed 10 demands. I was like, oh shit. So it wasn't. I didn't talk to her because she was running. I talked to her because I was interested in talking to her, and that's my mindset. I'm not I'm interested in talking to Shahid about the CIA, so I'm gonna have him on. I'm not here to promote your
yeah.
I'll bring people on who I'm interested in talking about.
That's how I am too.
If you're gonna run, I want to see a completely different strategy than what I see now the Justice Democrats. I love what I see now Kshama Sawant, to be honest. Like when you have electoral politics that is built to serve as a working class movement. When it's a top-down organization, when you're saying shit like what that person said earlier, like, oh, I want to fight for the bill, hurt my career. That's top-down. Because now you're like, oh, my career is more important than the movement.
Right.
That shit, I'm done with. I'm telling you guys right now, any politician that said that, I'm done. But if you are, like, I would support Kshama Sawant in a heartbeat, because from what I've seen, if I'm wrong, I will adjust, right? But from what I've seen, she supports a horizontal, like, no leader base. No, the leader's not gonna sell you out. The leader not gonna care about her career. She's not even taking a fucking paycheck. She literally like forfeits her paycheck away. Mm-hmm. So that's what I want to see. Like, if you're not doing that, if I see you following the Justice Democrat top down, I'm gonna be honest, I'm not interested, because that means you're gonna sell us out eventually. That is where I stand. And if you're a good horizontal, like, honestly, someone like Rome, like someone who's actually a horizontal mutual aid leader ran, wouldn't it be kind of dumb not to support them? Like, even if you're like one of people, like, I would never support electoral politics, it would be ridiculous not to support a Marxist who had good theory that is actually running. So I think I'm consistent on this, right? Like, this is something I've been working out.
I'm going to challenge you, Nick. Tell the audience why horizontal organization is so important and how it relates to abolitionism.
So I'm gonna give you guys an example of a top-down organization. Once again, I criticize the Justice Democrats because this is an example of a top-down organization. You donate to us and you trust our plan. So we have been completely unsuccessful in our ability to push them to the left on a few things like we want them to do, like fight for police abolition, because they're top-down. They don't give a fuck what we say, right? So when a benefit of having a horizontal movement, and so you have, once again, the overall goal of a dictatorship or proletariat, a movement that is responsive to no leader, really. You don't have any leader that's necessarily charged. You have an agenda that's set by the movement. And mutual aid helps sustain that, so you can free yourself from the capitalist class. So repeat the last part of that question. You could say how that relates to abolition, right?
Yeah.
So the reason why I can relate this is how, and hopefully this is answer your question, how I relate this to abolition, and this is why I always say Marxism and communism, this is really democracy. Because when you look at abolition, this is us. This is our freedom. This is our ability to set our community defense, right? Instead of the capitalist class. The capitalist class, as it is right now, under our top-down organizational structure, they set our community defense, and they don't really have our best interest in heart. So in the horizontal-based movement, and I'm trying my best to work this out, right? So if you're a Marxist, horizontal-based movement, you have to believe in abolition, because that means the community is in charge of the defense. We decide where the resources go, which will naturally go to housing and take care of people. So does that answer the question? Like, that's how it relates horizontally. I want to see what you guys think. I was trying my best to put all that together, but that's how I connect everything. Like, that's how I came to support abolition theory. And when I learned the difference, because I fell for like the Bernie. I used to believe that taking over. Oh, Zoya's back.
Good, yeah.
I used to believe that taking over the Democratic Party was the route, or right route. But that's because I used to believe, I didn't know that, like, the difference between like top down versus horizontal. These are things I'm trying to educate myself on, and I would love to see that more out of a movement. And then when I saw Kshama Sawant, and when I see out her, I see her promoting that idea, and that's just one example. And we got to hold her accountable, and I'm sure she wants that, right? And when I criticize progressives, I see them doing the exact opposite of horizontal, right? So when we march, when we had the America for All march, when they said "fuck you," I'm not gonna show up at your march. That's them saying, I don't owe this movement shit. You guys owe us shit. You're gonna donate to us. You're gonna trust us, and we don't owe you a vote. We're gonna vote for weapons to power. You see the difference. You feel free to interrupt me anytime. I'm working this out as well. What's your thoughts, Awkward?
I'm just curious what you think of Cori Bush, because she did show up, but that's all she did.
I talked about this before. And it gave me no pleasure. I'm from Missouri, and people understand. Cori Bush got elected because she started out as an activist because William Leslie Clay was corrupt and bought out by the St. Louis Police Department, and I'm disappointed because it seemed like she abandoned the route she started on, because she started off as a horizontal activist, right? So now you're kind of scared to be seen and you're scared to talk to activists. You should be begging to talk to us. Like, if I explained before, if I was an elected politician, like Amazon workers would be like, all right, dude, you don't have to show up all at every protest. Like they will be kicking me out. I'll be constantly in their face. So Cori Bush showed up at the America for Our March, and then Franco, and there was a few other people who asked her straight, like, do you agree with the demand that we should force Biden to use executive authority? She's like, no, I don't know anything about that. And I'm like, so you're just here for PR appearances? You don't even support the demand? So I'm not like, I'm not as far left as some people. Like, I'm not one of the people like, yo, she's straight up evil, but I'm not liking what you see. I know how like human tendencies are.
But she still might be the best, right? I mean,
and people are like, well, are they the best? I'm like, yeah, I guess, but like, that doesn't mean they're accomplishing what we want them to do.
Lesser evil thinking. The best leads to lesser evil thinking. Are they what they need? Are they honoring their campaign promises? You know, my outrage comes from AOC's ad where she's like, we can have these things right now. Okay, and that's why people gave you their grocery money. That's why people sacrificed to get you into power. They believed you. So you can't just say like, oh, and that was her second run. So it's not like she was unfamiliar with what she's facing on the inside. She was already aware, and she still made these promises, and now she's gaslighting us, and she's giving Biden an A. And I'm sorry, but people did not sacrifice to have her do PR for Biden.
Dude, look at my Twitter. Like, literally exposed me, guys. Search my tweets when Cori Bush won. I was hyped. Look at Bryce Smith. Like, I'm in Missouri. I'm an activist in Missouri. I knew who Cori Bush was when she ran the first time and she lost.
Yeah, I was hyped too, man.
I literally had no idea. Like, if you asked me, I was like, bro, there's no way Cori Bush is gonna win.
Then I said, there's no way she's gonna sell out. What an idiot. The idiot.
Yeah, once again, look, I ain't deleting them. Look at the tweets. I was like, bro, Cori Bush won? What? Because I know who she was. She was a nurse. She was with the activists, and she would demand the same shit that got a lot of the Ferguson protesters killed. Like, I'm telling you, a lot of these protesters was killed because he was real true before the Black Lives Matter sold out to the Democratic Party. He was true activists who were making the demands we were asking for. Yeah. And Cori Bush was standing side by side with these people. So when I criticize Cori Bush and when I go hard against her, guys, trust me, it gives me no pleasure to do that. Because there was no one more excited than me, especially as a black leftist in Missouri, having Cori Bush be elected and seeing her soften up against the establishment. I'm like, bro, if she softens up against her,
that was the proof.
They get anyone. But Zoya, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I've never been a Democrat. I've never been registered as a Democrat. Thank God in California, I'm allowed to be registered, no party affiliation, period. You know, earn my vote. I vote for policy, and my reactions are based on actions. And I'd love to be wrong. I'd love for AOC tomorrow to come out and give us something material. Or even if she can't, if really you want to subscribe to the fact that they have no power, although we can break that down and argue that, okay, you know, at least expose what is happening on the inside. You know, don't give Biden an A, say what's happening, talk about the corrupt money interests, talk about how they stall policy, expose everything that's happening in there. We expected a fighter.
Yeah. And again, having said all that we've said, this may seem like a waste of time, but again, a big part of what we do is education, and the politicians need to be educated more. So I do believe that it is not a waste of time, and I recommend it because it takes 2 seconds. to go on our website, 10forjustice.com, and to click on the Take Action link on the left and follow these instructions to email your mayor, your governor, your state congresspeople, or your U.S. congresspeople through Twitter DMs or your text messages. Super easy. And it's the least we can all do, I think.
Yeah, I think there's nothing wrong with that, because I think that doesn't conflict with my theory of change at all, because I also believe in just taking all your shots.
Right.
Like, we're gonna be doing just at home sitting around doing nothing. Like, we can just twiddle your thumbs, wait for the revolution to happen. Like, you might as well do something while you, like, once again, it may not lead to a revolution, but
right.
I do
And
believe
listen,
in
we know for a variety of reasons, and I'm not on the streets anymore. There are reasons for that. Not everyone can be. Not everyone has the financial or health, whatever.
Hey, imagine if you like some activist and you live in a deep red rural area in Kentucky, right?
Yeah.
What are your real chances of having a Marxist revolution?
Sure. Right.
Like, you gotta do whatever you can, right? And
Exactly.
some people who have different strategies in different locations. This is what me and Rome are trying to preach to people. Do what you can.
Exactly.
Everyone has a role in this movement. Not everyone's gonna be Fred Hampton. Not everyone's gonna be. Rome has a community garden he's started, a thrift store. He's on the front line. Not everyone can do that.
I love that dude, man.
Not everyone can take rubber bullets. I'm super proud of that man. Not everyone can take rubber bullets on the front line at a protest. Do what you can. Cook pie for the protest. Knit sweater for the protest. Write letters to your congressperson. That's what I want people to understand. This is revolutionary discipline. There's like this dick measuring contest. I do the most. Stop that thinking. Like,
go to a soup kitchen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But a revolutionary discipline, that's very important. I think the issue comes in that a lot of people push electoral as a one-size-fits-all solution, and it drains energy from pursuing other venues. So we're not here to sell that or to push that at all. We're saying definitely build community, definitely pursue these other avenues, but check that box, because we should take our shot, and we have seen it work to deliver incremental change, which is not good enough, which is why we should keep pursuing the other solutions.
Exactly. On that note, we could probably end, because
we reading each other mind there, because I think in 1 hour is good. And is this a good time for you guys? Because
it is. Next time I'm going to talk less.
No, it's all good. I think doing this for an hour, we can talk about the demand, and we can talk some shit, because there's a few things I want to ask you guys about.
Can I throw something in there? Because I want you guys to react to it.
I'm gonna give you guys last word. Yeah, go ahead, Zoya. I want whatever you want.
Did you guys see that massive cop funeral where thousands of cops were in the streets?
I was there. It was it was my fucking nightmare. I was taking video, and meanwhile, like, texting my wife, like, I'm not going to make it. I'm not going to make it. They were like pushing me around. Like, it took me like 4 hours to get where I needed to go. They blocked off like 40 blocks. It was terrifying.
So I just want to insert this thought. If all those cops weren't needed for crime that day, doesn't that show that they're not needed on any day?
Susan Sarandon should have never apologized. She should have never apologized.
That's what I
said. For the right-wing Coastal Warriors, I thought you guys were going to be tough. I thought you guys wasn't about getting people to apologize. You fucking sensitive man. And the same people, oh my God, the left is so sensitive. And they were like, oh my God, Susan Sarandon, you offending us. Because she said she shared a meme that was factually true, which pretty much summed up what Zoya said with humor.
Yep.
And also, one last thing I want to say, I want to get your thoughts, Awkward, as well. People always want to demonize other countries as fascist authoritarian. Like, imagine if the DPRK or Russia, you see a demonstration like this, we would take pictures and like, look at this fascist police state. Look at the demonstration. That was a show of power, and that was a show of intimidation because one of their people died. So now they did that as a show of power to let people know we run these fucking streets. If you fuck with us, we are gonna fuck you up. That is what that is, because that's how we will analyze that if another country did it, right? So anyway, Awkward, go ahead. I want to get you in here.
No, I mean, like, that is exactly what it was. Anyone who says otherwise is ignorant or lying. And again, I was there. They weren't in deep mourning. Okay. These guys were loving this experience. They're high-fiving each other, talking about their plans to get wasted with each other. They are pieces of shit, and they were thrilled to be able to ruin everyone else's day and show how powerful and how macho and how tough they are. They're not just a gang. They are organized crime. And I just want people to also think about, because I loved what Zoya said, think about that, and also think about how many people lost their jobs because they couldn't get where they needed to go. I'm fortunate enough that I didn't, but if I absolutely could have, it took me 4 hours to get somewhere. It normally would have taken me 15 minutes. And then think about all of the people who had emergencies during this. Because, by the way, FDNY and EMS were also there. And plus, again, the streets were blocked for everybody. So if there was an emergency of any kind, no one was coming to help because it was more important to them to stand there and show off.
And Nick, I DM'd you a screenshot. You know, I always come prepared with graphics.
Yeah, that's why we love having Zoya here. Let's check this one. Here it is. Here it is.
So that's to build on the fact that, you know, AWK is talking about them as criminal gangs. I
wanted to cover this.
And this is just one case out of millions. You know, the Kansas and California cops used civil forfeiture to stage armored car heists, stealing money earned by licensed marijuana businesses. These guys are
so crazy. It's so crazy people still defend this. There are people that still say we should fund this shit more. Do you guys see this?
Wild.
I literally read this before, but literally looking at this again, and I'm gonna talk about this again on Saturday because I wanted to prepare a whole thing on civil asset forfeiture. But look at let's read this again. Do you want to read it again? Look, the headline alone is some of the most cartoonish shit.
Holy
shit!
shit!
Kansas and California cops use civil forfeiture to stage armored car heists, stealing money earned by licensed marijuana businesses. Now, on this show, we explain all the time how Hollywood is propaganda. People think police protects people because they watch Rush Hour, they watch Die Hard, and they think people are really Jackie Chan kicking bad guys in the face in real life. So we explain how Hollywood is a tool of propaganda. So this is something that really happened. Why is the movie not being made about this? Why is the movie not being made about the cops using civil asset forfeiture to steal money from marijuana businesses? Ask yourself that question.
I'd love to see that movie.
And Nick, I sent you a follow-up screenshot so that we can contrast it with how we're funding this.
Yeah. So one last point, I'm gonna share that screenshot. I did a breakdown on one of my streams earlier this week. This epidemic of cops who shoot dogs, right?
Yeah,
to
man.
the point where they literally have organizations. Like, I didn't get a chance to share the story. I gotta find it, but I'll make sure share after I do the screenshot. Maybe save it for next week because we gotta wrap up soon. But there was another cop who busted into some person's house. They didn't have a search warrant for this person, and they shot their dog. No warning. First 2 seconds. There's a dog. Bam. And it's
cops kill 25 to 30 dogs a day.
What the? See, I didn't know the stat. That's why we have awkward here. Say 20 to 30. Where's the Hollywood movie on this? Once again, this is how you know Hollywood is propaganda because they do buddy cop films. But if you represent what a cop is, you should have a movie of a cop being their wife. They're shooting a few dogs. They're stealing money from stoners. That's the cop movie. That's Law and Order.
Actually, the closest thing is Super Troopers. That's the most realistic shit.
Here, this is what. Damn, this website not working for some reason. Awkward.
Oh, too bad. All right.
I don't know why, but it just maybe the domain.
You can look it up for the listeners. That is a true fact about how many dogs they kill, and there are, like Nick said, groups that track this and try to.
Let's do a segment on that next week. I'll come prepared. Let's come prepared with. I want to do a segment and cut that because people don't understand. I didn't know that.
The website
I didn't know that.
It is puppycidb.com.
Yeah, but Nick said it wasn't working.
Yeah, I'm gonna Google it. I'm gonna share this.
Yeah, it isn't.
I'm gonna Google it.
Site's down, of course. All right.
But they got it. Like, you can't tell people what we really do. People think the police protect people, but they shoot dogs. And in my live stream, I'm like, for some reason, not Awkward and Zoya, because obviously they're real allies, right? But white America When they see black people dying, they don't give a fuck. But if they see
dogs,
a dog, and I'm an
100%.
animal lover, guys. I am an animal lover. I watch these videos of people taking dogs who are homeless, they've been abandoned, and then they're like, I'm gonna take this dog and I'm gonna feed them, I'm gonna take care of them. Like, you're a Marxist, but you're a Marxist only for animals. Like, why not that mentality for humans? So I explain to people that cops kill dogs because I am trying to get white people to give a fuck about this issue. Yeah. And that's apparently how I'm supposed to do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I'm having fun here now. But Zoya, you want to explain this graphic I'm showing?
Well, I just wanted to contrast that with where U.S. police spending ranks among worldwide military expenditures. So, for the audience, yes, a lot of you are on board, abolish the police, but people watch these podcasts that are not on board. This is why we revisit these statistics and illustrate these facts so that people can face reality and come on board. So these people who have been caught, and it's not an isolated incident, literally stealing, we know they murder civilians, we know they murder dogs. Well, this is where the U.S. police spending is at. Even though we have only 5% of the world's population, so it's not because of the population, but our police spending is on par, surpasses most nations' military spending.
Yep.
Man, next week gonna be good. I think we got cut off there. We got a lot of stuff we can share.
Nick, just show this last picture because I got a graphic too.
Oh, which one? All right, this one. All right. I got you. I didn't see it. I got you though. I got you.
It just adds to what Zoya is saying too.
All right, awkward always got this stuff. I got both the Twitter and the description, so make sure you guys follow me on Twitter.
Oh yeah, just click on the graphic.
The U.S. spends at least $759 million per day on police.
And yeah, I guess you may need to go onto my Twitter to see it more closely. But this breaks it down. Yeah, this breaks it down by types of police and types of departments. It's just obscene.
Meanwhile, people want to call themselves fiscal conservatives.
Yeah.
Can you guys at least be honest about your policies? I'm fiscally liberal as fuck. I'm fiscally liberal, but you guys are too. Can you guys admit it? You guys want this illusion of security so bad that you guys are willing to throw money into the toilet just to get illusion of security. That's how fiscally liberal that the neoliberals and the conservatives are. I want you just to be clear. They believe in giant, strong military budgets because they need the illusion of security. Once again, at least I'm honest. I want Medicare for all and UBI because I believe being fiscally liberal will always come back and improve the economy. This is basic progressive economics. But at least I'm honest. You guys bullshit yourself by saying I'm fiscally conservative. No, you're not. Why you guys support police funding? Right-wing libertarians support us, and they used to agree with us on the issue of the police funding. But now they're like, I believe in the blue stripe. No, for sure.
Bullshit.
Really small government. But go ahead.
On the rare occasion a cop is actually confronting you at a protest, you're not for blue lives anymore. We've seen it. So you're full of shit. You're in favor of blue lives murdering black lives. And by the way, there is no such thing. It's a fucking t-shirt, as one of our friends once said in a beautiful speech at a community meeting. The amount of criminal justice debt owed by individuals is over 50 billion. So that's another message to fiscal conservatives. These individuals and families impacted by mass criminalization and mass incarceration are not going to ever pay that 50 billion in debt. So that is all money that you will not recoup. You, the fiscal conservatives who care about your businesses, no one's spending money at your store if they owe to the Justice Department and the parole board and whatever, the probation office and, and all the private corporations. So I guess if you're in one of these corporations, you're okay. There's a lot of money being sent to private corporations who are handling for our state governments and such, surveillance, electronic monitoring, and all of those things that continue to incarcerate people at home. But if you're not in one of those businesses, trust me, you'd like people to actually be out free spending money, I would think.
Well said. And next week, I know for sure because I want to ask you about this awkward. We don't have time today, but I wanted to, I wanted to react to that video with you when you all. What's his name? Jesse Lee
Oh,
Peterson. We don't have time today, but we're gonna do that next week if you got time next Friday.
I
So
would love to do that anytime.
yeah, so next Friday,
Amazing.
let's do
Amazing.
yeah. So next week we're gonna do the Man 5, and I want to ask you about that among a few other things because I saw that and I was like, bro, that was amazing. If you guys don't know, this man awkward was on what Jesse Lee Pearson.
Yeah.
He's like Candace Owens is crazy, but he's like to the net. He's the next. He probably on the mountain. Like him and Janine Pirro. I don't think anyone tops those two. Like I think they're the craziest people I've ever seen. But anyway, you guys see, we're gonna talk about it next week because awkward on this show. I'm not
I
gonna
promise you, if you haven't seen the video that I cut from the interview, it's very quick. This part that I think is the most fun, the part that Nick saw, because I hope he didn't click on this motherfucker's link and actually watch the whole thing.
I didn't watch it on his channel. I saw it on Twitter. I saw it on your Twitter.
Yeah,
so I gave you Twitter engagement that way.
Right. Thank you. Yeah. No. Don't give him any engagement. Just watch the tiny version that Nick will share next week because it is pure comedy.
So we're gonna watch it. We're gonna watch it next week. That should be a fun segment. Zoya, I want to give you the last word. Anything else you want to promote? Well, I'll give both of you guys last word, but we start with Zoya. Zoya, any last words you want? Anything?
Yeah. So I just want to say I see some people in the comments saying that they feel hopeless, and I completely understand. It's valid. The system is so corrupt, and the situation is so dire that I understand, and I want to validate that pain and hopelessness. But I urge you not to give up. No act is too small. Our alternative is not acceptable, so we have to keep fighting. We have to take all of our shots. You do everything that you can in your power, in your community. Meet your neighbors, organize with your neighbors, go feed the homeless, start a community garden. There are things you could be doing that will help. It's not going to be immediate, but we cannot give up. So please stay strong. I want to send all of you love and keep fighting.
Well said, Uncle, go ahead. Last words.
You can just start by going to these things because they're already happening in your communities. You may not even know about it. So don't even put any pressure on yourself. Just go. And I promise you that witnessing the beauty of, mutual aid and community involvement and togetherness will lift your spirits. The only last thing I want to say is that I know I've said a couple times I have to talk less and jokingly, but the truth is Nick and I both, but I in particular, looking the way that I do, have to practice what I preach. And I've done work on myself for years, not to be, because I'm also a big guy and I'm loud. I scare people all the time by accident, and men are overpowering and often obnoxious, and I have to do a better job next time, not overpowering, not speaking too much and taking over the conversation. So Zoya, if you felt that way, I apologize, and I apologize to the audience if you were annoyed. It's something that we all just strive to do better each time.
Yeah, well, so that's all we can do. Yeah, that's all we can do is try to be better. People watch me from when I very first started doing this. No, this has been a long path for me. That's all we can do is just continue to get better. And the last thoughts I was just say, just in response of what she was saying. I'm in this fight, and not because necessarily I'm optimistic, because it's like what's the alternative, right? What's the alternative? And I don't think. This is me personally. You call me crazy, but I legitimately don't think there's like we all gonna die. This shit always gonna happen anyway. But there's no better way. There's no honorable death than fighting for the revolution, fighting for change. For like I got nieces. I don't have kids personally myself, not yet. But I got nieces. I got little cousins. There's nothing more honorable that you can do and live in this life and fighting for something better and your next generation. So even though if it looks hopeless, if we continue to build community with each other, reject the divisive bullshit that comes from the establishment when they want you to hate our neighbors. Like people who actually feel, and I actually heard this from people. I'll be very quick on this. I don't want to rant, but there's almost this like once people start engaging in mutual aid, once they really start building community, once they reject the individualistic capitalist thought that they've been trained on, they actually get a sense of relief. Like, oh, this is how we supposed to live. Like, we supposed to build community. So even when times are hard, like, you can find joy in the struggle as your community. People are miserable because capitalism got people focused only on their own little box. So even if times are hard, if we find this as a community, we can find joy that way. So that's the positive message I will leave with you guys. Hopefully you guys that positive for you guys. So thank you guys for checking us out. We will be back next week. We're gonna knock out all these demands the best we can. And this is a good time slot to do that. So consider it's like a temporary weekly program that we're doing. So we'll be back next Friday. And Savvy Savs will be live on Revolutionary Blackout at 6 p.m. Eastern. So we had 2 programs running tonight on Friday. And Saturday, I will be live. You guys know usually my longer Saturday stream. Zoya may pop in. I usually have friends that may pop in. But I got a lot of stuff I want to discuss. Like, there's so much stuff, especially with the CIA. Maybe it'd be consider tomorrow the official CIA bashing live stream.
Oh.
so just know that's a preview of what we got planned tomorrow. Anyway, we upload every day. I love the support and solidarity. Thank you guys. Thank you, operator.
And today,
go ahead.
Sorry, and today it looks like Compton J is going live at 3 p.m. Eastern. Also CJ, for his Let's Get Out podcast.
Yeah, I love that CJ's doing this new weekly show because I'm honest with you guys. Like, we straight up honest. I have a goal. I want to hit 15,000 subscribers for our 1-year anniversary. We started formerly known as Fred Hampton Leftist on April 1st. A lot of people thought it was April Fool's joke. We were like, no, for real. Like, seriously, we fucked up. We should have announced on April 1st, but we were serious. So April was our 1-year anniversary. So we wanted to start doing my shows. So I think CJ shared that same ambition. So
where are you at now? How many you got now?
Last time I checked, we was at 13.6.
All right, you can get there.
So anyway, I'm a goal oriented. I'm a martial artist. That's how I always do. It's just how I stay engaged. So
I'm loving to see the growth. You guys are all amazing. You know that. That's how I feel. Brother. Yeah, I love
much love.
Thank you for having us on.
Yeah, we're gonna do this again next week. Thank you guys for watching. Check out CJ here very soon.
Yeah,
see you guys. I'm gonna watch that. It's gonna be good. Have a good one, guys.